What's up, everybody? This is Steve Hoggard, the pastor of Hickory Hill Baptist Church. Today is Thursday, April the 30th, and the last day of April, and I thought I would go over our Sunday school lesson. It's found in Romans chapter 11, verses 17 through 32, and as we go through it, please read it beforehand so it'll make more sense if you do that. Now, Paul is going to talk about kind of an agricultural term called grafting. And grafting is basically if you have a little shoot, a little plant, a little tree, sapling, you would cut the end off, you would split it in half, then you'd get another little thing, and another little sapling, you stick it on top of it, and you would tie it around together. And that's grafting. And so Paul uses this thought throughout this whole passage. So you kind of keep that in mind. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up, Google it. But also uses terms or symbolism, things that you need to understand before we walk through it, or you're going to scratch your head and you're not going to understand what he's saying. So let me go through those real quickly. The first thing Paul's going to talk about is the broken off branches. When he says the broken off branches, he is referring to those Jews who do not believe or do not have faith in Jesus Christ. And then Paul's going to talk about the wild olive shoots. He's referring to Gentiles. And then Paul's going to talk about olive tree. And an olive tree is just referring to the Jews that do believe in Jesus Christ. And last, he's going to use the word root. And when he talks about the word root, he is talking about Jesus Christ. So now we kind of got the terms out of the way. Remember, please read the passage. I am not going to read as we go through this. I expect you to do it. If we read it together through this video, it would be a long video. So let's just walk through this. Romans chapter 11, starting in verse 17. So the broken branches, those are the Jews who do not have faith in Jesus Christ. So those branches are broken off. And then grafted new branches, which are the wild olive shoots. Those are grafted in. And those are the Gentiles. They have a chance to become the part of the family of God. And then both the olive tree and the wild olive shoots, they are both take nourishment from the root, and that root is Jesus Christ. All right, verses 18 through 21. Paul kind of gives a warning here. And Paul tells these Gentiles, do not boast that these broken branches are no longer apart. Don't boast about that. Remember, you do not support the root, but the root supports you. In other words, Jesus Christ is the one that supports you. The reason you are grafted in, the reason you have a chance to become part of the family of God is because you put your faith in Jesus Christ. The Gentiles figured it out. It's because of these Jews that were broken off, made room for them to get into the family of God by faith only. So he said, don't become arrogant, don't become cocky, but be fearful, because God did not spare the natural branches, those Jews that had a right to become the family of God, but they were broken off. He said he did not spare them. He may not spare you either. All right, verse 22. Paul tells the Gentiles how to live. Consider the kindness and sternness of God, he talks about. And folks, we got to consider both of them. We got to keep them in balance. Many people love to talk about the kindness of God and how great and how merciful and how loving God is. But then they forget about the sternness, about the God that will bring judgment, the God that will discipline his people. That is the sternness of God. Both must be considered. Both must be added to our theology, guys. Kindness and the sternness of God. If you don't keep both of them in mind, Paul says, you will also be cut off, he says. All right, verses 23 and 24. Paul is talking about the branches that were cut off. Those Jews who do not believe in Jesus Christ. If these Jews start to believe in Jesus Christ, they can be grafted into the family of God. In other words, if they repent and trust in Jesus Christ, God will accept them back into his family. All right, verse 25. He says, don't be a dummy, or don't be ignorant. about the mystery. And when Paul talks about the mystery, he's talking about the gospel, the good news that Jesus Christ came on earth. He died on the cross and he rose again. And that by us putting our faith in Jesus Christ, that we can be saved. He's talking about that good news when he talks about mystery. And he said that Israel had hardened her heart until a number of Gentiles have come into the faith. And so then Paul quotes in Isaiah in verses 26 and 27 of Romans chapter 11. He talks about Zion. And Zion is the city of David, or it's the dwelling place of God. And God will bring deliverance. And he will turn the godliness away from Jacob, his people. And his promise, his covenant, will be that he will take away their sins. And that happens through Jesus Christ. All right, verses 28 and 29. Paul starts out with calling those Jews that did not put their faith in Jesus Christ as enemies of God. Because they were broken off, they chose to become enemies of God. But as for election, these unbelieving Jews are loved by God because of the patriarchs, because of Abraham and Isaac, their forefathers. God made promises to them. And so they are still loved by God because God made a promise, a covenant with Abraham and Isaac. God's gift and his promises, his call, will never fail. And that's what Paul says here. On verses 32 and 32, kind of verses in Romans 11, verse 30 through 32, Paul kind of wraps it up here. He says, Paul is talking about the Gentiles who were once disobedient to God, but now they receive the mercy of God, all because of Israel, those broken branches, those Jews who do not believe in Jesus Christ, made an opening for the Gentiles to come into God's family. But those unbelieving Jews that were disobedient now can also receive God's mercy. Folks, we all are disobedient to God at one time, and we need to receive the mercy of God. Let me kind of end it this way, get you thinking about this. Have you ever received an invitation to a party? I know my kids, when they were younger, I swear I have 4 kids, and I swear every week we got a birthday party invite. And on the birthday party invite, it tells you where it's going to happen, what time it is, the date, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of it, it has an RSVP. You have to make a response. So that's the invitation that God gives. He gives an invitation. He gave that invitation to the Jews. And there were some Jews that put their faith in Jesus Christ. But there are some Jews that did not. But also he extended that invitation to the Gentiles. And those Gentiles who put their faith in Jesus Christ can also come to the party. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to brag or be cocky and arrogant because you're into the party. Because that host that gave you the invitation can also ask you to leave. So that's what Paul is kind of saying in a nutshell. He's saying, guys, remember the mercy and sternness of God. You got into God's kingdom by faith. Live by faith. That's all we have today. That's kind of the Sunday school kind of wrap up there in Romans chapter 11, verses 17 through 32. Now again, on this Sunday, May the 3rd, we're going to have parking lot church again, so please come. It'll start at 10:30, and hope to see you there. If you have any questions, if you need anything, just holler at me. I appreciate you. I love you, and we'll talk to you later.